it just dawned on me that this week is going to be the 6-month anniversary of me moving out to the country. So I stayed around Seattle for a couple months after we declared the pandemic, and then I spent a month and a half in Central Washington, which is also city-like. But on July 25th, 2020, I know it was that day because that was the day I was making the drive out to the country, because there was a challenge, a 24-hour challenge of recording what you did onto YouTube. And so I know July 25th is the day I officially checked out of the city. I mean, I've been back to Seattle a couple of times because we did go into phase 2 at one point and held a few meetings, and I also made a couple friends during the lockdown that I wanted to go back and see. But for the most part, the country has been my home. There's been a few places that I've been to out here. I spent 2 months in Helena, a month and a half in Missoula. Right now, this is how many months have I been here in Wallace? I moved out here just before Thanksgiving, but my lease is ending at the end of this month, and I'm hoping to go back to Missoula. And I want to say that I've found myself over in the big city, right? I've spent time in Seattle, obviously, New York. To a lesser extent, I would say Rochester, New York is also city-like. And I grew up in Pittsburgh. And things are very fast-paced there. People are very cold. You're a number there, right? They could treat you really coldly, and you just get lost in the masses of people there. They don't care, right? Here, I feel like I'm actually writing a story, right? I don't go out just as an episode, right? So I've already made quite a number of friends here, and I find it easier to get along with my landlord over here, right? Over in Seattle, I've had all sorts of battles. So my landlord in Seattle, she didn't want to accept that she couldn't raise the rent during the, or she couldn't end my lease during the pandemic, right? We had an emergency order. My lease was supposed to end at the end of March last year, and she wanted to get me out of there. And she couldn't accept that she couldn't do that. Obviously, out here in the country, we probably didn't have any emergency orders like that. But if we did, I think the people here would respect it a whole lot more. I don't seem to have trouble getting my landlord here to fix things when needed. What else is going on? It's easier to oh, my first day in Wallace, I had to sleep in my car because the place wasn't ready, and people actually treated me like a human. That was a surprise to me. You know, I'm used to living in my car in Seattle and being kicked all over the place, and I accept it. But when I experienced what I did here in Wallace, that was a very pleasant surprise. It was a very pleasant surprise. And so I found myself here. I hope we continue to work remotely. Obviously, I want the pandemic to end just like everybody else. But once it does, I hope we find more remote work opportunities. I think we will, because I think our society is already shifting in that direction. Although, if more people discover themselves out in the country, it might not be country anymore, right? That's the only problem that I might have to deal with. Anyway, I would say our cops here are pretty nice too. I had a run-in the other day. I didn't get a ticket. I'm very lucky. I got pulled over for rolling through a stop sign, and I introduced myself, that I'm a professor from Seattle and I'm working remotely right now. We had a good conversation, and he let me off. So gave me a nice warm fuzzy feeling about Wallace. People drive much more considerately, I would say. I very rarely do I hear a horn. Anyway, 6 months. I'm thinking about Missoula, but I also thought about Amarillo, Texas. I've watched a few documentaries and movies that were shot in Amarillo, and the slow pace of life, and the fact that everybody gets to know everybody, even just 2 months out here, right? You know, try spending 2 months in Seattle. You're still a number by that point, right? Anyway, I'll definitely continue to call the country my home until I have to, and even here I might find some opportunities to, and maybe permanently stay here.